All right, we are back on the Zephyr. The front bumper is looking good. We're making progress. I think we're going to go front to back at this point. One issue I was having was collision damage. You'll see that it is quite wrinkled in this area here. So there's some stuff I want to do regarding symmetry and then, of course, crash damage. So this, if you've done bodywork, might not be anything new. If you're new to bodywork, we might all learn something together. Let's bring out the tools, take a look at the car, and see what we're going to do to remedy it. All right, so being that it's gray, flat primer, you don't really notice how dented up it is. I mean, if you know this thing has been hit. If this had gloss paint on it, it would be a whole different story. Someone mentioned that the fenders looked different, like they were from a different car before the bumper was put on. And you know, I'm going to agree with you in the fact that they look different, not that they're from a different car. Look at this. It's a line right there. There's a crease right here. And then there's a good rub and a dent up here. So I bet this, I know this car was crashed. If this fender wasn't from this car, this fender was still crashed. This was folded in. This took a shot right here, and this was backwards. And it's been repaired, or at least crudely, because look at all these hammer marks. This was pushed out. So let's look at this. You're coming out. So the Zephyr has a peak right here. This should be the apex of the fender. See how it's bulging out? It's because this wonked it all out of the shape. Let's compare. See, that's the mark of somebody that knows symmetry when that fella said that. Look at that. Ka-chunk. It's coming straight almost, and then like a hard turn around. Come over here. It makes a nice graceful curve right around. And there's a little dent there. That ain't nothing. So what we're going to try to do, and there's a dent there. But hey, it's all bodywork. Beautiful curvy fender. Look at that. You can see the shadow of the bumper too. It really shows that peak that I was describing the Zephyr should have right there. This has the license plate frame in the way of the shadow, but I mean, look, it's just like bang, bang. And we're going to try to do something to that. Notice how I covered myself when I said, we're going to try to do something to that. This isn't the worst collision stuff that's around, but it's pretty complex, right? And I'm just going to go for it. I'm not saying we're even going to get the result desired, but one thing I do know is if this went like that, then this whole thing wants to come back like that and then get smoothed. So is it registering what's happening when I push on that? This is pushing out. Whoa. So this is split. That's going to need some welding in there. That's why it keeps falling back into shape. So that wants to be out here. We're going to make some contour guides, pieces of cardboard, and we're going to measure up so that we get a similar left to right balance. It's a flat shot, right? See how it's dented in right there? Doesn't that look a lot nicer over here? So I'm doing this with my glasses on as much for me as it is for you. Let's bring that right back. Okay, let's remember that shape on the headlight. Pretty close, but it's losing it right after here. This is all in. And I'm looking at this. Oh yeah, look at that. Are we reading that? So there's space here. This is upside down. Look. So we're gonna have to bring that out. Let's put this roughly here on the other side. I'm looking at about that far in. So yeah, nowhere is this fender flat. You see, this ruler was flat on that surface, and here it's rocking everywhere. So the whole thing on that side is just mashed. Technical term, it's mashed. So I wanted to do this while it was attached to the car because it's got some grab with the hardware. Otherwise it would be flopping around on the table, making life stressful. All right, I'm gonna put the camera in here. All right, so coming inside, it's pretty dark, but see that cut right there? It's all wrinkled up on the internal structure, the way it wraps under. But that cut right there is why it's so flexible. I'm running my hand up through here. Nothing else is broken, so that's cool. Be able to push that. If you know body work, you know these tools. If you don't know body work, these are the tools. These are different dollies. We've used them. We've been doing this YouTube for a while, so you probably saw this, but the metal is going to take the shape of whatever you're hitting it with and how you treat it. So you got these dollies with all these different details. This one looks like a comma, kind of like... Coincidence? I think not. Outside radius, inside radius. Nice round, got a hard flat, you got a corner. All these things. All these different shapes to beat the metal with. And I'm also going to attempt to make a very rudimentary planishing hammer with the air hammer and a hammerhead. We're going to make our own. We're going to weld it and see if it works. That's last. First, I'm thinking the inside lip of that fender, you know, this is the outside, right? Let's just look at this. The outside of the fender comes and then the sheet metal turns under, pretty close to this contour. So I'm gonna get in there and dress that up. You might not see it too well because it's under the car. But first we wanna just kind of get that fender pulled out into shape. I'm gonna use 3 different things to hit it with. Your typical body hammer. It's got a pick on one side, a nice flat thing. This is this very, very mild radius. Because this fender's so curved, a lot of times what you end up doing with this is you see the edge of the hammer. It makes all these little like, almost like crescent shapes. Not metal finishing this, but this is the reason that I brought a ball peen, and then it has this other face on it, right? So you got a hard little radius edge, and then a nice mellow one. And I just use this slapper, right? Once you're getting into, say, the nice curve on the face of the fender, you know, it's about this radius. To avoid hammer marks, you're just gonna slap it with a flat plate, and I mean like. All words, let's try some action. Okay, I'm gonna set this up really basic. I'm gonna use some tape, and you know, this is by no means going to provide an exact science type of scenario. But let's just look at this bumper bracket, and I'm just kind of looking level, you know, just by eye. I'm gonna pull that right across. Do the same thing here. Bumper bracket, level, right across. Nothing too fancy. And we know that this was mashed too. There's a hole in top of this headlight. So I'm gonna say about a hand's width back. I'm gonna do the same thing right here. Nothing too fancy. I'm just looking at the grill, I'm looking at the ground. I'm gonna slap it in place. Coincidentally, that comes right through that hard edge of the collision. One hand back, that's what we're working with. Actually, I happen to have this nice soft drink box. It's by no means a product endorsement, although certain people do choose Coke over Pepsi. Yeah, I think we get away with this. Yeah. Let's rip this in half. keep it real simple. You never know what the rules are here on the interwebs, right? End up getting some kind of a monetized strike. All right, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna come down. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. Yeah. Now we're closer. Let's try to back up that a little bit. You know what? No, that's fine. Because if we're coming off the headlight dent, that is perfect right there. Let's flip it around. I'm going to film from this side, so we're just keeping the labels out of it. This has considerably more lead than the other one, too. But looking at that, see this? Definitely in, but look how far up this is. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to try to lock this in a little bit better. Oh, that's quite high up. That's okay. Yeah, no, that's cool. So, actually looks like this is reasonably close. You know, once I get that actually pulled it out, I just felt it. Now I'm going to try this. Pretty close. I'm going to come just like that, a little bit more. All right, so hopefully you can read that. So we're like that. So now we're going to flip it like that. Yeah, way different. I'm gonna make a mark here where the peak is. Top to there. I just cut this off where that peak is. And yeah, we're quite a ways out. So what do we do? I think we got a bolt here, and then this is beat up. Wish we get a better little visual on this with the camera. I just don't think we're gonna get it. Unless I take the hood off and stick the camera in there. Let's try that. I was able to stick the camera through the inside of the fender well, and this is the point we're addressing. We see how this is all wrinkled up? Let's get the dolly in there. Just try to get that a little bit more into shape. Yeah, I was just checking at the camera angle, and it's not the best, but from here, let me assure you, this is very wrinkled up. Yeah, we got this. I'm gonna use the heavier ball peen just to get this kind of, it's got a good crease in it. I almost want to bring this down first. There's two splits. It's split here, and it's overlapped. Yeah, so this thing definitely took some heat. And this corner is kind of beat up too. All right, so what I did was just, I pushed this a little bit flatter. See, then we're able to get that out. Because what we want to do is weld this so that it's not just working on that broken point. Yeah, so as I push this up, that goes into shape. I wonder, yeah, in a body shop, you have something here where you could draw to it and lift up. That's really what I need to do. I need to set up something in this and lift it straight up. All right, so this looks like a little bit cockamamie, but it's accomplished what I needed to. I have a ratchet strap going down to that mounting point in the fender, and I've lifted the fender up considerably. So it's putting that stretch into it, and it's taken this peak out of the fender. Yeah, perfect. Trying to get this with the camera. So if I take the hammer, look how considerably rounder that looks, right? So because it's split right there, all I have to do is push it with the hammer. So let me get that welder set up. But you can see this, how the strap goes under the fender to that mounting hole. And yeah, Worked out just fine. Yeah, so what I'm seeing here is this is actually right into shape. That crease is completely open. Be able to just tack on that. Yep. That's the amazing thing about this steel from the 30s. It's just so good. Welds like perfect. All right. So that's that. While it's warm, just going to use this and just give it a little bit of shape. We got to fix another part before we really move along. Yeah. Actually worked out darn good. Yeah. A little rip here that I mentioned too. I'm going to go ahead and touch that. So I'm leaving extra weld on this because right now I just want the reinforcement. I'm going to go on the inside, weld it up nice. That way I can grind this off and really finish it. I just want to have that strength. As I mentioned, this was the point where the whole panel was doing that buckle. Yeah, that captures it really well right now. I'm going to end up hitting this apparatus for the camera with the hammer, but let's just try this. Yeah, that totally pulled it down into shape. All right, next. You have this rip here, and then down lower, you have this one here. So you can see why this fender was just all up in its worry. This underside here, I got the welds going on. It's wrinkly because I haven't finished it, but yeah, that's what we're looking like underneath. Just a nice large weld to anneal the area around where all that stress was. And we can finish that later. Next up is this guy. It looks like I want to push that in and then pull this down. Because you see it's crunched like that, right? As it hit, it pushed this. Let's take it off the ladder for a second. So it's what I was describing. This needs to come in and this needs to come out. Just like that, yeah. Ooh. Yeah, so what would we do? I don't think I have any clamps here because you could put a straight block back here and then squeeze that and that would push it. See what we can come up with. Yeah, I don't have any clamps, but I do have this straight block. And this is the area of concern. This has a slight radius here. So I'm gonna put that there. Send that where I want it. There's actually an internal brace right here, and that's why it cracked right up against it, because the brace wouldn't flex. But here's where the hardware was at this dimple. So we might cut that off just to access it. Yeah, so there's a brace right here. There's some action here. Yep. Hold that, because this has to come out. Oh, there it went. Heck yeah. Yeah. As soon as I hit it, this just went into shape. Yeah. There it is. Okay, I'm going handheld. Here's the area I was just working on. So you can see the pieces, instead of them being overlapped, now they're together. So I'm going to start by welding in here, probably to a halfway point, and then I'm going to get behind with the pick and try to push this out, because you see this one's way outside and it's in. So I'll brace it here, Then I'm going to use the hammer and dolly, try to get that whole panel to just come into alignment. It's a little hard to see at this angle, but let me assure you, this is a considerable dent. So I'm going to start by trying to pick that out. Look at that. Cool. Now, that's out. Try to just dress that up a little bit. That's cool. I think we're going to trap this area because this has to puff out now. That's where I was thinking about using maybe that planishing hammer, you know, the air hammer thing. Although maybe we'll wait, that way we don't have this weld bead to contend with on the inside. But there is this brace, and all I have with me today is a Sawzall. Let me just knock that out of the way. So that's that bracket. We'll hold on to that. And I can reach all this really well. And this looks pretty good too. It's another rip. Let me just address that and then we'll talk about it. See, I'm using this edge inside. Yeah, let me lock that up too. So I was just thinking while I was doing that, it might seem counterintuitive to weld these flexible pieces in place. But in fact, you're getting control over this edge and you can push this sheet metal out. So yeah, it looks like all this. Maybe I'm just gonna wallop that with the hammer just to see what happens. See if I can't, now that this is welded, see there's some rigidity in here and you can stretch it instead of it just opening. And that totally just moved out. And get some ear protection and start whacking. All right, so for this, I'm gonna use this dolly. It's got a little convex face on it. And I'm just gonna try to work some of this low spots. This out the way. This is what I was describing earlier with this hammer. It's starting to put the marks of the edges on it. That's what all these little dimples are. But it's okay for now because we're trying to move this out. Yeah, that looks cool. With metal forming, that's how you start. You start by banging it into shape and then refining it. Feeling an outward push right here though. Let's bring this. Yeah, that's giving it some shape. Let's work on this a little bit while we're up here. We're gonna hold this here. There's a ridge here where this was pushed in, so I'm putting the dolly on this ridge and hammering under it this way. think I'll take this. So that is taking that ridge out. It's still high right here. All right, take the little rounder face. Just give it some action. All right, cool. That feels darn good. These are tall through here. So I'm gonna put the convex face underneath. And hear it hit the dolly. Instead of, that's when you know it's at the spot. Yeah, so it's low here. I'm gonna flip back to this. Yeah, so that's closer. This is still a pretty good crease right here. So I mentioned that slapper, that flat bar, it really is just a pry bar. But instead of trying to put hammer marks here, I'm gonna use that bar, and all this does is stretches out the surface here, contacting the metal instead of a hammer mark. So I could see there's a ridge right here. I'm gonna set this here. Yeah, and I could feel it contacting that right here. There it is. Super rudimentary. Purists are cringing. You could even use this part here, but that just took that ridge out of there. So it's high right here, I'm feeling it. You know what, this is working. I'm gonna try getting into this with it. Finding that maybe a little bit more weight in this slapper would help. But that's what slappers are for. It's the crowbar, pry bar. I don't know if the camera's registering this, but it's knocking down all those hammer marks to flat. Heck yes! I was not expecting this. I'm being honest. Telling you, I wasn't expecting this. This metal is so nice. I can beat it up right here a little bit more. I don't really know what more to say about that. I think, there's going to be filler on this car, but the fact that this is repaired and the contour is smooth, I'm not even going to stress about comparing it on the steel again, because this went back into shape. And I mean, just a bit of filler through here to lift that up, I have no problem with that at all. Just going to cap off these two with weld. So this is going to be hilarious. Body professionals are going to love this technique. I don't have any sandpaper here at home, and I don't have a flat block to really gauge this, but I do have this paving stone. And I mean, any port in a storm, right? So you can see all these little high spots presenting. A relatively even contour. Let's go ahead and make that air tool and see if we can't just rattle this into shape just a little bit more. I'll cap this with a weld, and then we're good. I'm gonna change that last statement. You can see how close all this is. I am cool with that. A little more hammer and dolly work, but filler will take this out. This is really close. I'm gonna weld up these ends here, and that's gonna be it for this front end repair. All right, so I welded a good bit around that area that was damaged because it was obviously really fatigued, and that's why it cracked. So this is annealed it. It's annealed the whole area around there and rigidized it. And now I can continue, just finish this off and grind that, and we're strong and flush. All right, so with the hammer and the dolly, we're just gonna continue all the way around the car. We got little dents, little dings, and that was the majority of the damage from any crash. So look how much rounder that profile is now. It really helped. I'll get in there and smash that with the hammer a little bit more. But all in all, that's the extent of the crash repair. The bumper, and then that. So heck yeah. Now that I got this thing up on jacks again, I'm gonna get into this firewall next. We got all these little holes and finish details. So I got the hood off. I'm gonna get in there, just start picking away at clean up the firewall. And you know what I always say, little by little, we're getting close. Still a long way to go, but closer every time.